concern is not just GDP and those numbers, but it's really how well off citizens are with the well-being. And if you have a lot of poor people, your GDP will be high, but that doesn't really mean that doing well. There is something that is slightly different, and that is the age profile makes a difference. That young people can figure out how to use a cell phone, for instance. Or these,
younger than us.
the new technologies get incorporated better by younger people. So populations where there's a younger demographic, a younger fraction, typically tend to be more dynamic. And that, I think, will be an advantage for India.
Now, one of the things which has caused the present crisis, as you say, the over-saving of China was financing the under-saving of the West. And nobody could either stop it or improve upon it. Is that a problem of international monetary system?
Yeah.
And is there a way of correcting that problem?
What some people like Bernanke said in the United States was that the problem was a savings glut.
Yeah.
I think that was basically a wrong view, because it wasn't as if the world was saving too much. It was that the savings was not being well used.
Yeah.
There are huge needs for retrofitting the world for global warming, needs for development, needs for addressing the problems of poverty. So to say that there was too much savings from a global perspective was just wrong. It was absurd. The global financial markets were not using the savings efficiently. And it was a failure of global financial markets. And that goes back to the question that you asked in the beginning. It was really the failure of deregulation, the failure to trust financial markets to allocate savings, to manage risk well, and they didn't do it. The deregulated markets did a very, very bad job of it.
Now, going then further, will a reform of the global governing institutions, IMF, World Bank, perhaps giving the emerging economies a bigger role, would that improve the efficiency of the international monetary system? Or you think it's more the private financial markets which are the problem, not the regulatory system?
Oh, I think both. I think both are part of the problem. I think that it's inevitable that the emerging markets will eventually get more voice, but it's also almost inevitable that the United States and Europe are going to be resistant, and it's going to be very, very difficult. I was at a meeting at the IMF just last fall, and one of the speakers from Asia made the observation. He quoted one of the American officials 10 years ago who said, when people were complaining about the U.S. having too much voice at the IMF, the American official had said, "He who pays the piper calls the tune." And he says, now that we're paying the piper, we call the tune.
Absolutely.
And there was a little bit of grimace on the part of some of the other people in the room, but that's the reality of where I think we're going.
Now let me move to one other theme. There is poverty in Asia, there's poverty in the developed countries. These are, I presume, different sorts of poverty, and they have a different kind of solutions. Would you say that Asia needs the standard economic solutions of higher productivity, more investment, more education, whereas in West there is a different kind of issues about incentives and so on, poverty?
Well, I think there's some similarities and some differences. Let me talk about one of the general principles. A lot of people used to think that trickle-down economics, that is, you let the economy grow and everybody's going to benefit. An expression that was used in the United States was, "A rising tide lifts all boats." That's not true. And it's not true in developed countries, it's not true in developing countries. It's a common failure.